Welcome back to another Matchbook Euro 2020 special. Third time this week that I'm getting to join the terrific tandem, tireless, hard-working tandem of Adrian, Clarke and Mark O'Hare. They're still awake. They're still bright, bushy-tailed. I love to see it. Good morning, gentlemen. If you're joining us now on this Friday morning, good morning to all of our viewers as well, live on Matchbook social channels. 9 games we've got to cover this weekend. We're going to look at Saturday, Sunday, and Monday's games. If you're in the market for Friday's games, check back on Wednesday's recording, and those will be there. The guys have a very strong selection in the England and Scotland game, the only game that's happening today, obviously, for some people. All right, guys, we'll get straight into it because we've got a lot to get through. I want to take a look at the outrights currently, though, because obviously we've had a couple more games in the meantime, and no surprise, France, the big mover here. You could have backed them pre-tournament at 7.0. Matchbook, they're now 4.7. Italy, also the second biggest mover and second favourite now in the market, from one time being 6th or 7th in the market at 7.6. England, no real move there in the English at 8.0. Belgium have actually drifted following yesterday, which I find kind of a small bit confusing. 8.8, you can back there. Portugal, 8.8 as well. Spain at 9.6. I don't know if we can go further down there, but there's maybe one of there, the Netherlands as well, that we might look at it. They're quite an interesting price. 12.5 Germany, they obviously drifted after that loss in Munich. And Netherlands 15.0. I don't really think we'll talk about the rest. Adrian, quickly there in the Netherlands. Obviously, you guys caned Frank de Boer in the last couple of days again, but they didn't look all right. Look, Austria notwithstanding, the opposition wasn't great, but do you think that might be not a bad price to back now because their route is not the most treacherous?
No, they played really well. Credit where it's due. Not up against much in Austria, it has to be said. But tactically, they did get it right, and they've got a clear style. You have to say that about them in terms of the way they press, a little bit like Italy, looking to win those turnovers and spring attacks hard and fast. And it suits them because they haven't got that much creative magic. So it's strike on those turnovers and transitions. I think there might be an argument to Holland won't win this. I'm almost convinced they got no chance of winning the tournament. But as a back to lay option, it could work because they got an easy group, which they're going to top, and then the route looks pretty kind, you've got to say. So I think they've got an excellent chance of potentially getting to the semi-finals where they're almost certain to go out. So yeah, it's one to consider if you think they're going to drop into single figure digits.
Yeah, and that's what Adrian was saying there, back to lay. You just back it, and then once they get maybe to the quarterfinals and in single digits, press the lay button and lock in a guaranteed profit. And speaking of which, if you have not got a Matchbook account today and you do want to get involved on those outright markets, we're offering a 20% boost on your winnings throughout Euro 2020, but you got to use the bonus code INSIGHTS2020 to avail of this offer. If you're like me, if you have a few positions, not a bad one to be looking at throughout the tournament, and let's start a bit of laying and putting a bit of a green book on it and go from there. Insights 2020 for that offer. All right, let's get into it. Saturday, first game. Adrian, start with you here for this one, mate. Hungary versus France in Bucharest. It is going to be hot. 33 degrees at kickoff in Bucharest on Saturday afternoon. The home side here, they're a big price. It's not that surprising. 13.5, you can back the Hungarians. France at just under 1.33. The draw available 5.5. The main handicap line there is 1.5. France laying 1.5 goals at odds against 2.02. And 2.5 is the total, shaded towards the overs. Adrian, you expect the France win. It's hard to back them, obviously, at 1.33. So are we going to do this old chestnut, France, and under 3.5? And again, I say the under 3.5 because I'm probably like preempting it there with the weather that, this could potentially be a bit of a slower game.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you got to look at the conditions a little bit, and often in these burning hot games, it's a low scoring affair where energy levels are a little bit lower, yep. But also France, even though they're deservedly heavy favourites, and they did impress against Germany without really getting into top gear. Look at their fixtures away from home, and this is an away game, isn't it, for them over there in Hungary? It'll be a big crowd against them. Their last 7 away games, France, and this includes the win against Germany, have all been under 3.5. And you look further back, just 1 in 10 of France's away games have been over 3.5, and that was against Andorra. So I think that if you're playing the percentage game, then under 3.5 looks good. And then also you use your eyes in regards to Hungary, and they kept Portugal at bay, didn't they, quite comfortably until the last 10 minutes or so. They weren't a terrible side by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, I think France you have to back. They're a quality side, but are they going to carve out stacks of chances? Maybe not. And of course you've also got to factor in Portugal around the corner for France. So they'll want to win this one, I think, with the minimum energy, used up. So for me, yeah, it looks like a 1-0, 2-0 France, maybe 3-0 like Portugal. But yeah, I can't really see Hungary troubling them too much at the back, because they were excellent, weren't they, against half decent Germany side. Centre halves were outstanding, and I think if they can handle Germany, they can certainly handle Hungary.
Yeah, Mark, here, it's not even just that. I mean, the fact that the main French chance in the second half was when Germany were pushed right up the field, and if Hungary played with that lower back, which we probably expect them to do, because it would be absolute suicide if Hungary play any bit of a high line with Mbappe running down the channels. But do you give Hungary any chance here, Mark? Or are you kind of in line with Adrian that France won't absolutely pull up trees here?
They've always got a chance, Sully. Everyone's always got a chance in a football match, and that's something this game would be very easy if there was just one-sided game, and the odds always played out as they're supposed to do. But Adrian's spot on; he's summarised it brilliantly. France at 1.333, obviously very short, but if you add in the under 3.5 goals angle, you're getting even money, and you're getting the 4 favourites in the correct score market on side. And I don't want to be disrespectful or patronising to Hungary, but they did battle very well against Portugal. Marco Rossi, the Italian head coach, has come in there in the past 18 months, and he's done work. Well, he's worked miracles really in the domestic game of Honved, and kind of employed the similar style, quite a defensive style, made them very difficult to beat and very difficult to open up. And they did compete very well for 80 minutes, emptied the tanks really, and offered us something on the counter-attack. But I think we saw the effect of the capacity crowd as well. They looked lifted by the players, and it was a decent battle on the field as well. But I think Portugal did move the ball a bit quicker than Spain did, and probably showed a bit more directness to their play, and I think that eventually told. So I think France would be a difficult assignment, because that front three, you can't deny France scoring a goal when they've got those 3 players up top. So and just Deschamps' style, very similar to what Fernando Santos is with Portugal. Once you get ahead, it will be sort of batten down the hatches. You can look at that 3-0 game against Portugal and say the result was a bit harsh on Hungary, a deflected goal, a penalty in the last 10 minutes, etc. So I think that game was much closer to a 1-0 rather than a 3-0. So wouldn't be too surprised to see something similar here. We spoke before the Portugal-Hungary game about Szoboszlai's influence in this Hungary team. Without him, there's just a lack of inspiration in the final third. A lot of industry, but not a huge amount of invention. So, yeah, France will get the job done, I expect. And then once they get the first goal, they can play on the counter-attack, because Hungary are going to have to go for it at some stage. But conditions dictate this to be a France win, and a reasonably low-scoring one at that.
Yeah, I like the angle. I just, in my own head, if they get 1 or 2-0 up, even in the second half, I can't just see them just, what is the point? They don't have to show their full hand there, and I don't think they will. All right, let's move on to Saturday's mid-afternoon game in Munich, Portugal against Germany. I don't think we're going to say it's a must-win for Germany, but, I mean, the market is dictating that it's probably more of a win for them, a must-win for them. 2.39, you can back the Germans. Portugal at 3.32, the draw available at 3.4. Portugal getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap at 1.9. And the total, I'm kind of surprised by that. I thought it might be about 2.25, but it's a bit wrong here, 2.5. And it's shaded towards the under at 1.86. Mark, are you expecting, I presume we're not expecting a goal fest in this one, both for probably evenly enough match teams. And but what way do you see this playing out?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, this one, because of the dynamics of the group. And Germany are reasonable favourites, so I expected that. They went off favourites against France, which was a bit bemusing, but kind of goes to show how overvalued home field advantage is at the moment. But sometimes you say that the closing price is always the right price, but there are occasions when it can be wrong. And I think in this tournament, especially, the market's trying to figure out how much crowds are actually impacting on these matches with home field advantage compared to post-pandemic situations behind closed doors. And France went off at 2-1 against Germany and Munich, which just didn't sit right at all. But Portugal are a different bag to France in their own right. And I think just what's happened in that first round of group games could dictate how this match plays out, because despite having a wonderful front four, they've still got a wonderfully solid base to work from. Danilo and William Carvalho in the centre of the park. Renato Sanchez coming off the bench to influence things in the middle. Diaz and Pep at centre half. And they have got attacking fullbacks, but they do show caution as well. And I think that's Santos' style. They've got 3 points in the bag, a +3 goal difference. They'll know that a point in the last 2 games will see them through. So I'm not expecting Portugal to sort of go for it here. It is in Germany's it's in Germany's hands to try and make a bit more of a game of it, but they'll also know that a point here plus a victory against Hungary at home, it must be said, in the last group game, will see them through as well. I think it's about 90%, 95% certainty that teams with 4 points or more qualify from these groups. So I think it's a difficult one to analyse. I'm just kind of playing into Portugal's pragmatism and particularly Fernando Santos' his style there. So Portugal plus a quarter is appealing. Portugal plus a half, which if it gets to 7 to 10, 1.7 is also appealing. But I'm going to do an Adrian here and back the draw and under 2.5 goals. Basically, Dutching the 0-0 and the 1-1 correct scores, because you're getting a decent price there. And I'm just probably buying a bit too much into Portugal and Santos here, but I'm not expecting that goal line to be beaten. So if it is a low-scoring game, the draw comes into play, and Portugal will be quite happy to settle for a point.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, a point for Germany is not a bad result either.
No.
I mean, they've got Hungary last. I mean, they win that game, they're through one way or the other. Adrian, Clarke, in agreement here. Adrian, just want to pick your brain on this just very quickly from last week. And we talked about Germany lining up in this 3-4-3. And obviously, I know you're very tactically astute. It didn't look right, did it? And I mean, they've tried it the last couple of games, and it still doesn't look right.
No, I'm glad you asked, actually, because my sort of takeaway from that match against France was that they're not totally comfortable in it at the moment. Now, when you play Latvia, you can play in any shape and you look decent, right? But when you play up against
flying columns, it won't make
exactly.
any difference.
But when you come up against a really strong side in a system that you've only used 2 or 3 times, then that's a potential issue. And it felt to me as if Germany weren't flowing. They didn't flow, and they played all right. They got into some good areas, but the front 3 did disappoint. And in midfield, the Gundogan Kroos axis, I'm not sure it's going to be good enough over the course of
your best central midfielder out at right wing back. So there you go straight away.
I felt like
I thought it would be. I don't know what you think, Adrian, but I thought obviously the opening goal was a bit of a killer in the way in which it came about. But if that game stays 0-0 for a bit longer, I'd love to have seen how it played out, because I think conditions massively played into France's hands. They would have loved to just sit back and play on the counter-attack. And that first goal was a killer.
Oh yeah, and they looked so sharp, didn't they, on those counter-attacks, France. And Germany, let's be honest, they look very vulnerable, particularly with the invisible speed or lack of speed from Mats Hummels. What they'll find in this game,
plenty of recovery speed down there.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. That was a great tackle, wasn't it? What they'll find with Portugal is that Portugal have got the movement. So Ronaldo's nominally the striker, but he'll pull left. Jota will end up as striker, or Bernardo Silva will pop up there. There's real interchanging of movement, and that back 3 might have no one to mark at times in this game, which it might play into their hands. It could confuse them. I think runners through those holes in a back 3 that's not really watertight, you have to say, could be a problem. I agree with everything Mark said, to be honest. My personal pick would be Portugal plus a quarter. I think they're a slightly better side, certainly more comfortable in their shape and tactical approach, and I don't see them losing. But Germany have got to be careful here not to lose. They have to sort of play with the handbrake a little bit on. So for that reason, the unders is a definite play as well. And I'll have a draw in under 2.5, but
I know you do,
even just under 2.5 as a more shorter odds, clearly. But I feel that's backable as well.
Yeah, look, there's probably 2 angles there. The under 2.5 is 1.85, and the aforementioned what Mark referenced there, unders and the draw, and that's a 4.35. So a lot more juice if you're not comfortable going in at 1.85. But I'm most comfortable going in at 1.85 on the under 2.5. So I will lock that in as our selection. All right, gentlemen, let's move on. What do we got next? There's a lot coming at us today, gents. Spain and Poland, Saturday night in Seville. And I'll start with you, Mark, for this one. Spain, very short there. 1.39, 10.2. You can back Poland. The draw available 5.2. Poland getting a 1.25 start on the Asian handicap. Good odds against 2.08. It's a high goal line, 2.75, but it is shaped towards the under. America, look, it's going to be, again, very warm in Seville on Saturday night as well. Spain have obviously come from those COVID cases. They looked a bit fractured, but they did look pretty good on Monday night against Sweden. What are you thinking with this? Will they have enough for the Poles here?
Yeah, I think they should. I think I was a little bit cooler on Spain than maybe either of you two were with that performance against Sweden. But there are understandably reasons behind that. You mentioned the preparation, not able to play their final warm-up game, not able to do a huge amount of team training either before the match, but they did dominate it, had a couple of opportunities to score. They looked gettable as well. So I don't know. The jury's still out for Spain with me. I'm not convinced really at all at the moment, but they have to win this game, and they should win this game, because if I wasn't convinced of Spain, I was absolutely sure in what I saw from Poland, which is, I don't know if I can actually say the word on air, to be honest. It would be an expletive. They were really bad, really bad, lacking in so many areas. They looked laboured. They had no spark. Lewandowski was isolated, but even when he tried to come deep, he just couldn't have any influence on the game. Really disappointing, massively on the back foot now as well. And for all the promises we were told about Poland, bringing Paulo Sousa in to unlock Lewandowski's talent and to play this swashbuckling attacking football, it was awful. The extra day rest will help here because they have to travel from St. Petersburg, but it's going to be warm. It's going to be difficult having to chase the game. They're not going to be able to monopolise possession or territory. They're going to have to play on the break. I'm not sure they've got the players to play on the break, quite like Sweden potentially did with Isak. You could say Lewandowski is the obvious candidate, but I'm sure he's a bit more of a penalty box player than a player to utilise the counter-attack. But anyway, I'm going around the houses here. It's a bit of a rinse and repeat for Spain from what I did against Sweden. It didn't come off, but Spain to win and under 3.5 goals, I just think the Spanish team is more than capable of dictating tempo and how this game plays out. You'd expect one of those opportunities to be taken this time around. Poland defensively are pretty treacherous at the best of times, and they axed their head coach in January because he was too defensive, but at least he had them set up and organised in a manner that made them hard to beat. But to go and concede 2 goals to that Slovakia team is, it's not good. So I'm very down on Poland, as you can probably tell.
Adrian, Spain were your right pick for this competition. Do you, if you're Luis Enrique, do you start Morata for this one, or do you bring in?
No, I'd change it. I'd give Gerard Moreno the start in this one. Morata is just not an elite finisher. He's a good player, but he does miss a lot of chances. I think Moreno is probably slightly more reliable, and he's had a good season, hasn't he, for Villarreal? So I'd go there. But they've got players that can score goals. We all saw that they laboured, especially in the second half against Sweden, but up against an uber defensive team, for me, they still had 3 really easy chances that they should at least have taken one of them. It was criminal, really, that they drew the game. Poland don't have a defence that's as good as Sweden. They don't have the same level of organisation. Spain will be a little bit more fired up. They've had some training together, which Mark was right to point out. Yeah. So for me, we'll see a better Spain, and I'm equally as down on the Poles. Slovakia opened them up quite a lot, didn't they, in that game? And if they can do it, Spain can for sure. They've just got to sort out their finishing. Just looking at, and obviously they're missing as well Krychowiak, Poland. So that makes them even weaker, I think, defensively, because he sits in there. I was looking at Poland's stats. Both teams to scorers landed in six of 7 actually for them. So they're maybe always worth a goal. And we know that Paulo Sousa is more attack minded than defensive. And Spain did look a bit shaky when Sweden did get the ball in the penalty area. So I'm not totally sold on Spain as a defensive unit yet either. So for me, I would come at it at a slightly different angle. Spain and over 2.5 goals, because I think Poland might be worth one. And I think that Spain will find their shooting boots because they'll create plenty of chances in this game. But I also get where Mark is coming from. After what we saw of Spain, bit bit powder puff in front of goal. Spain and under 3.5 feels the more percentage shot here. I feel that that's probably the safer bet. But my hunch is that Spain might cut loose a little bit, and I would go over 2.5. But it's a real pick 'em.
Okay, let's maybe just go with Mark because it's just a bit more confidence there. And it's good odds against 2.04. Right, we're a third of the way through the show, and that's the last of match day 2 games. We're into the latter stages now. And the problem is with these last group games, as Mark O'Hare, I can see in the bottom of the screen, they are trappy and tricky and very much mind your bank balance regards your bet roll management here, because this is, or your bankroll management even, this is tricky. Very tricky. And let's start with a tricky one from Group A. And this is Italy and Wales. And Mark, I don't think you have a bet for this, but Adrian, I'll come to you quickly for this one. 1.5, you can back the Italians. Wales at 9.0. The draw available at 4.15. Wales getting 1 goal start in the Asian handicap odds against at 2.05. And the total is 2.25. And Adrian, where I suppose we're conscious that we're recording this obviously on Friday morning. We're obviously not going to know what the Italian team is. But what way do you see it playing out? Because I think, in fairness, even the Italian, some of the guys that they have to bring in, the likes of Chiesa and a few others, they're not bad at all.
No, their reserve players are good. Yeah,
they're pretty good. You're like in goals, and you expect that that it could clip over 2 anyway.
Yeah, I'm not saying it'd be a big play at all, because it is a hard game to read. Italy, for me, have been the most impressive side so far. Love them. I love watching them. They've been awesome, and that work ethic without the ball is giving them so many opportunities to catch teams on the attack. And if Wales do fiddle around with the ball inside their own half, then they're going to find it hard to get out of their own half, because that's what happened to Turkey. That's what happened to Switzerland, and Italy scored multiple times in both games and could have had more. So, yeah, I feel this could be a real challenge for Wales, who were brilliant, by the way. And I hold my hands up. I absolutely overrated Turkey ahead of the last game, and I underestimated Wales. So got that one wrong. Bale and Ramsey were outstanding. They really did step up, and for that reason and for their quality, they might, don't write off Wales nicking a goal here. So for me, I was looking at the goals angle. Italy are just creating so much, particularly on those transitions. And even if the fringe players come in, those fringe players, they're all of a sudden, they're playing for places in the knockout stages, aren't they? There's going to be so much hunger within that group. Italy, for me, look like they've got massive momentum. And I don't think Mancini will let them take their foot off the gas. So for me, Italy will win the game. That would be my pick for sure, but it's a bit short. So for odds reasons, and also because I just believe in them to score goals, and maybe for Wales to get one over 2.25 at 1.943, that appeals to me. But it's not the strongest selection of this particular slate.
Yeah, and it's very tricky to know, and especially you're saying about Wales getting a goal. If you see the likes of maybe Bastoni coming in or something, that's probably an angle to be looking at, but we don't know that now. So I'll make the executive decision here that I don't think this is a bet for us. I think we'd be very misleading if we said that there was a real solid player, but maybe if we might jump back on Twitter over the weekend and say there was.
I'd be interested to know if Mark would wait if Italy put out a weakened team and make changes, and that would you then expect the price to drift, Mark? And then would you be interested in just backing Italy on the nose?
Yeah, that would be my approach at the moment. Is Italy are too short to back right now, but I think controversial. But Chiellini, his absence, obviously he loses a bit of experience and leadership. But Acerbi or Bastoni are more than good enough to come into that centre half. Probably had better seasons than Chiellini. You talk about Chiesa, Bernardeschi. These are players who can come in and make a difference. So if that price does drift, bear in mind Italy were 1.7, 1.75 against Switzerland. So if they do start to make changes, that price will drift. And I think you just play a waiting game, even down to when teams are announced. Even if Italy do drift towards 1.7 or above, then there might be a play for sure. But that's the way I'd be playing it. I wouldn't be making a decision right now.
Yeah, a lot of comments in this morning. One there from James McGuinness that Italy's defence is great. A lot of Italian fanboys coming out of the woodwork. I'm one of them. I'll be honest, I'm one of them. And James also says, "All right, guys, Australia loves you." Good day and good morning and good evening to you, James, down in Australia. All right, let's say no bet there, but it is probably one to keep a watching brief on what the Italian team is. so impressive by Wales. I mean, look, there was a big market move on them prior to kickoff, and a justified market move. Same group. This is a tricky one as well, guys. Switzerland and Turkey and Baku. I'm not totally sure how we play this, but let's talk about it anyway. Let's talk about the betting. And Adrian, I'll talk to you about this again. You might have a slight lean on this one. Switzerland at 1.75. You can back Turkey at 5.0. The draw available 4.05. Turkey getting a 3/4 goal start on the Asian handicap at 2.0. And 2.75 is the total, and slightly shaded towards the under. And we talked pre-recording that the opening price for this Switzerland was around even money. They've been backed hard, but Adrian, it's like obviously when we saw what Turkey have put up in the last two performances, leaking 5 goals and not looking at all competent as a team, then you know that the money is going to come one way for this. But what way do you expect this to play out in that?
Yeah, it's. I mean, based on what we've seen of Turkey, you can't back them at any price really, because they've been shockingly bad. Yes, Yilmaz has missed some chances. I mean, the one against Wales was a shocker. Midfield's been poor. I think the centre half partnerships have been unexpectedly shaky. Huge holes there. But for me, it was the midfield that was the issue, not tracking runners, and they just looked a bit disorganised, which we just didn't expect from Senel Gunesh, because he's such an experienced campaigner. So, yeah, it's been a huge disappointment. I can't back them. And I certainly can't back Switzerland at that short price, because they haven't blown our socks off, have they? They've looked a better team than Turkey, more organised, probably slightly better on the ball, but not that exciting. Apart from Mbolo, you're wondering what they're going to do to score a goal, a bit of a set-piece team. But the context of the game is this. A draw and they're both out. So they've got to go for it to some degree. It could open up. It could become, maybe in the second half, it could become a little bit you attack, we attack, because they need the win. And for that reason, both teams to score appeals to me in a tricky game. It's not a big price, maybe for that reason that I've just outlined. 1.77, I think, last time I looked, for both teams.
One for the Ackers, man. One for the Ackers.
It could be.
Yeah.
I just feel that they have to go for it. And Turkey, can they go 3 games without scoring? I think they're more likely to get something here. And Switzerland, up against a very ropey Turkish defence, I would back them to get 1 goal, maybe from a set piece. So yeah, both teams to score is what I will be doing. But again, it's not an easy game to call.
Yeah, both teams score 1.78. And like I said, you can do all your multiples at matchbook.com. If that's too short a price to be back in the zone, lump it in with something else, I would suggest. All right, let's move on to Monday. And this is the last group games of Group C, both kicking off 5 o'clock. But let's talk about Ukraine and Austria. Look at this price of this draw, gentlemen. 2.1. It's almost like it's written in the stars.
Last night, Sully, it was under 1.9. I couldn't believe my eyes. Yeah.
Bit of market resistance to it, so obviously. So, yeah, okay, Ukraine are the nominal favourites in this one, 3.48. Austria 3.56. As we mentioned, the draw available 2.1. Draw no bet market is a pretty even one, 1.85 favouring Ukraine, Austria 2.0. And the total, and this is not that surprising either, under a flat 2 is at 1.79. And Mark O'Hare, there is precedence for this in the past. Our own country was involved in one of these in 1990 against the Netherlands. And it generally, look, I suppose we don't want to get too carried away, and we're not going to say, let's start lumping on 0-all draws here, but the market has got well ahead of this, and it's hard to see past that when both teams don't need to win.
Yeah, sometimes I guess in betting there's plenty of unknowns, and you have to speculate a little bit and read between the lines, and that just isn't the case here. We know exactly what both teams need to do here, which is pick up a point, mutually acceptable points, pretty much, and both will qualify. And that's obviously seen why the draw plunged and the goal line has crashed as well. So it's not too hard to buy into that narrative. And whether you finish second or third in this group doesn't make a huge amount of difference, because you're facing a group winner in the following round. So I know in some of these pools, runner-ups can play another runner-up, but that's not the case in Group C. So yeah, it's hard to view it without kind of just being drawn towards the draw. And I think the only way you can make it work really is by lumping in the draw and under 2.5 goals, which is back in the 0-0 and the 1-1, because it gets you a better price, a more appealing price of 2-1, but that's still very short for bought your back in, considering we talked about something at 4.35 earlier. So that would be my way in, just as a bit of interest, because I think myself, if it didn't come in, it's one of those where you pinch yourself a little bit and kind of rue not getting involved. But it almost seems a bit too good to be true.
And Adrian, Clarke, you're definitely old enough to remember this, no offense, but Ruud Gullit and Mick McCarthy were the captains that day in I think it was Palermo in 1990, and the referee had to call them over to say, guys, at least pretend to look like you're playing. I don't think we're going to get that bad. The game has moved on a fair bit. Of course, you can't pass back to the goalkeeper and you can just hold on to the ball. That is kind of gone now. Yeah. But it's hard to see anything otherwise. When you, like, at the end of the day, they can't lose the game. So why are they going to come up and try it, really?
I'm pretty sure Austria were involved in a really controversial one in the '82 World Cup as well. Yeah, Mark's nodding. Yeah, I can't remember the game, but
was it Germany they played?
Might have been, yeah. It was. I was only young at the time.
Yeah.
It was, Austria have previous to this, and it's in Austria's interest, isn't it, to maybe strike a deal with Ukraine. A little handshake here, but
it's cynical. That's so cynical.
For me, Ukraine are a better team. For me, if I was Ukraine, I'd go for it. I think Austria are really beatable. That high line was shocking against Holland last night, and tactically, I don't think the manager is great. And Ukraine, I quite like Ukraine. I like watching them, and the front guys, Yaremchuk, Yarmolenko, Malinovsky. You got Zinchenko in midfield. Got a lot of good quality there, and I think that if they do play this game properly, Ukraine, they should win. And for that reason, the 3.52 or 3.54, whatever it is appealing for me as an alternative to the draw. Ukraine draw no bet is interesting. Get your money back on the draw, but you're backing the team that you actually think will win the game. It's 1.85, and that's definitely of interest.
All I'd say, Adrian, from a Ukraine perspective, is what's the incentive to win the match? You can't win the group, so you just confirm it. You're already second in the group, so
I get it. I do get it, but at the same time, I get it, and that's why the draw is as low as it is. But if they were to play the match properly, it's a national match. You're playing for pride, and you're playing for the fans that are inside the stadium or at home. You want to do yourself justice, and I just think they're a marginally better team than Austria. So Ukraine drawing a bet would interest me, but I know I'm not going to twist Mark's arm. This is this is a draw all day long in your eyes.
Mark's option there with the draw under 2.5 it's a short price, 2.44. Normally you'd be looking at about 4.0, 4.5 shot the Dutch and 0-0 and a 1-1 draw. It's short, but there's a reason it's short. Is because it's obviously just way more likely to occur. So you know what, we didn't have a bet for Italy and Wales, so let's put in two small bets or two small ones. Let's be honest about it, because this one is tricky. Ukraine a draw no bet, and again, if it is a draw, you get your money back on that. And if it's a draw full stop and it's a 0-0 draw 1-1, you just make money all around you. So no complaints with that. Obviously, we're rattling through a lot of games, but if you have missed some of the selections from the guys, check out insights.matchbook.com. Throughout the tournament, all of the bets will be up there throughout the tournament, so just do check that out. All right, what we got next? The last group game as well. In the same group is North Macedonia against the Netherlands. 11.5. You can back North Macedonia here in the Johan Cruyff Arena. Netherlands 1.34. The draw available at 5.3. No surprise there. Obviously, Netherlands are a good favourite on the handicap here. They're laying a goal and a half at 1.93, and the total is 3. Marco here, what are you thinking with this? Actually, no, I'll leave with Adrian on this one, because I think, Adrian, you might be slightly stronger on this one. On the Dutch, because you talked about the Dutch early. Netherlands to win, and you're expecting goals as well.
Yeah, they're pretty good going forward, aren't they? But North Macedonia have been pretty entertaining, quite enterprising, a little bit naive, I think, fair to say, at the back, fragile at set pieces, and they're conceding a lot of chances, North Macedonia. Against the two weakest sides in the group, they conceded 27 shots in 2 games, North Macedonia. So what are they going to concede against the Netherlands? You'd imagine 15 plus. at least. And for that reason, you've got to fancy the Dutch to score some goals. They'll squeeze them. They'll use that press. They'll pin them in like they have done the other games, Holland, and look to score goals. But North Macedonia have got, like I say, a bit of enterprise themselves, and they might have their moments in the game. So yeah, for me, Holland will win the game, or they're surely more likely to win the game, and I'm looking at over 2.5 goals to couple in alongside that, which gets us, was it to 1.9, I think. So that would be where I would be going. That just the pace, the power of them on those transitions is good enough to blow teams like North Macedonia away. It won't be good enough to beat the elite teams in this competition. I don't fancy Holland to go the whole way, but against a team like this, they should score. They should score 3 goals, I would imagine. Yeah. And North Macedonia might be worth one themselves.
That's the thing, yeah. Netherlands in over 2.5, you can back a 1.93. America, obviously, the Dutch have 6 points. There's a good possibility that they will rest some of their players, but they have some good, especially the younger guys in an attacking sense. There's some good guys coming through there that will look to put their hand up. I mean, don't get me wrong, like Weghorst, like he's potentially not going to be nailed on to start going forward, but there's some good guys that could put their hands up. On the flip side, they may rest the likes of De Ligt coming back from injury, so they may be a bit vulnerable at the back, and that's your way. And you think that there may be a goal in North Macedonia here?
Yeah, I do. Netherlands have won the group, so there is going to be changes, no doubt. And Macedonia might already be eliminated, but this game does still matter to North Macedonia. It's a historic occasion to be here. You've seen how passionate the supporters are and the players are, and how keen they are to try and impress. And they won't care about the fact that they're out. They just want to get a goal and give something for their fans to cheer about. So, we came into this competition with doubts over the Netherlands. We came into the competition with doubts over Frank de Boer. I don't think they've dispelled many of those. I still think they look much more lively going forward and very uncontrolled about how they play in midfield and how defensively they can be opened up. So Macedonia, that's where their strengths are at, is going forward, not just individually, but also collectively. And Adrian's talked about them defensively, that they the shape of the defence against Ukraine midweek was quite alarming at times. So looked very ropey. So, yeah, I'm expecting a decent game. I kind of came at this angle as an over 2 3/4 goal line to begin with. But just because of North Macedonia and what this match can mean to them, there's no way I can get with the Dutch kind of overcoming a big handicap, but I can see there's being goals in this game. I can certainly see North Macedonia getting on the score sheet. So we know that third round group games tend to see the most goals per game of the group phase, and that tends to be down to desperation and jeopardy of matches, but also occasions like this where you've got teams with little to play for. The handbrake can come off a little bit, and you've got players coming into the team who want to try and impress. And obviously this is Holland in Amsterdam, so they won't want to lose this match. I think they've scored twice or more in the last 8 games or so now as well, so you'd expect them to hit that target themselves. So Adrian's play is absolutely bang on. It's fair enough to be looking towards a Dutch win and goals, but I'm just trying to boost the price up a little bit more by backing both teams to score as well, which gets you in at 3.3-ish. But yeah, it's not a game I'm getting massively involved in, just because there's nothing really at stake bar pride.
Yeah, no, that's a big price. 3.3 Netherlands to win and both teams to score. Adrian, I do very much like your ankle. That's one I'm going to back myself, so I'm going to put this in as a play. Netherlands to win and over 2.5 goals. So yeah, it does cover us if it's a 2-1 Netherlands win even. All right, let's move on. Monday night, Group B, final game, Finland, Belgium in St. Petersburg. Finland, you can back here at 12.5. Belgium available at just under 1.35. The draw available at 5.3. Finland getting a goal and a half start on the Asian handicap at 1.89. 2.5 is the total. And Marco here, look, I mean, same thing here. 6 points for Belgium. They're qualified. Excuse me. They will rest a few people, obviously, but again, they've got such depth, and we saw it the last night. De Bruyne and Eden Hazard coming off the bench, like it's almost unfair. You expect them to win, but maybe not to put Finland fully to the sword.
Yeah, I'm stronger on the other Group B game, but I think it's hard to dismiss Belgium, even if they have already qualified. The permutations in this group are quite fascinating. If Finland were to beat Belgium, they could almost top the group. It comes down to head-to-head as well as anything else. providing Russia don't beat Denmark. And but also there's an incentive there, obviously, for Belgium to get a result, because they do want to win the group, even if it puts you on the perceived harder side of the knockout draw. But yeah, I mean, the players that came on against Denmark and influenced the match might be given an hour's run out here. That's Hazard, De Bruyne, Witsel. A lot of people saying it's an opportunity for them to rest up again, but I think it might be an opportunity to just give them 45 minutes, give them an hour in their legs, which is quite worrying from a Finnish perspective. And it's probably why the Belgium mark's quite short still, because you've got to presume they're going to play their better players until the team sheet comes out. But I don't trust Belgium defensively still. I think we saw that against Denmark as well. They, not just individually, but the errors that they can make as well. They're not really trustworthy for me just yet. So I went with Belgium and under 3.5 goals, because you're just getting that 2-1 onside as well, which is the 4 most likely correct scores, rather than probably the 3. The likelihood of Belgium winning 4-0 or 5-0 or above isn't out of the question, but I'm kind of happy to overlook that. And from a Finnish perspective, they just need to avoid defeat here, don't they? So we've seen them be pretty super organised, very defensive, very difficult to break down, threat from set pieces. They'll know what's required here. They know they gave Russia a few headaches early on in that game, but Pukki doesn't look 100%. They haven't generated a huge amount of expected goals or big chances in their matches, which isn't ideal. And Belgium had 66% of the ball against Russia. They're going to have something similar here against Finland. So in terms of opportunity for Finland, it's going to be pretty limited to counter-attack, set pieces, etc. But I don't know. Belgium and under 3.5 goals was my play. It's not a huge, strong one because of what's at stake here and how Belgium might. It all comes down to how Belgium might want to approach this game, and I'd want to know the team sheet before really sort of pulling the trigger, and if those 3 players are involved.
Yeah, I think we all would definitely at this price, and that price might go down in due course of 1.83. Adrian, what are you thinking of this one?
I think it's a really good shout. All makes sense to me. I don't fully trust the Belgian defence, but in the same breath, even though Finland have had their moments, they had a few half chances, disallowed goal, of course, in the last game as well against Russia. They've had 1 shot on target in each match so far. 1 against Denmark, they scored, and just 1 against the Russians. Now they're up against the best team in the group. So are they going to get even more than 1? Unlikely, isn't it? You have to say, if you're thinking about the percentages. So yeah, one other way of coming at it is Belgium and both teams to score. No, that's an alternative. But if you don't trust the Belgian defence, and I think there are reasons not to trust them, and Pukki's sharp movement, especially in behind Vertonghen, is an area I would definitely be looking to exploit if I was the Finnish manager. So I'm happy to make way for Mark on this one and go with his one, because Finland are going to play for a draw. They're going to be super defensive here, I'd imagine. Then yeah, under 3.5 and the Belgian win is where I'd go. And I do think that De Bruyne, and Hazard will play. Yeah.
Exactly. They'll definitely get like Mark said, 45, 60 minutes. Be that starting or off the bench. All right, yeah, Belgium and under 3.5 is the way, and we think in this one 1.83. Again, watch your stakes for these ones. I would suggest last group games are always tricky. There's a whole lot more games to go, and final game we're going to cover is the other game in Group B on Monday night. Russia are the nominated home team here, but the game is in Copenhagen at 5.2. Denmark just under 1.65. The draw of 4.25. Russia getting a 3/4 of a goal start on the Asian handicap 2.0, and 2.5 is the total shaded towards the under. Mark O'Hare, what do you think with this one? Denmark have been desperately unlucky, haven't they? I mean, it's hard to believe that they have no points in the group game coming into this. And look, narratives aside and romance aside, you just hope that they'll somehow find a way into the last 16, because I think they're good enough to be there in terms of this competition.
Yeah, I'm trying to remove the noise from my head about all the romance of this, and also all my pre-tournament positions on Denmark, and try and look at this as a one-off game. But it's hard to do it. I'm absolutely buzzing for this match already, which isn't ideal considering we're talking on Friday. Yeah, Denmark must win, and if Finland lose, they're going to get second spot pretty much. I know there's a load of different permutations, but that's essentially what's required. And you're right. They've been the most unlucky team in the Euro so far. Take out the Christian Eriksen incident, which is understandably catastrophic to their prospects last Saturday. But in pure football terms, the stats are 43 shots, 29 shots in the box. They've hit the woodwork, missed a penalty, and generated 4.22 expected goals and scored once. Defensively, they've only faced 7 shots, 4 of which were from inside the penalty area, 1.5 xG, and conceded 3 goals. And they've got 0 points. It's a really unfortunate element of tournament football, but the small samples mean you get high variance and little time to sort of turn those things around. So it is win or bust for them here. I do expect them to get a result. I was really impressed with the way they went about their business against Belgium from the off. Hugely commendable. Should give them a lot of confidence, the energy, the belief to kind of go again, because this Russian side are absolutely beatable, particularly in Copenhagen with what looked like a capacity crowd, which I'm not sure they were supposed to have, but there we go. Russia, yeah, I mean, pretty dour game against Finland, wasn't it? It was pretty dreadful. They only won the shot count there, 14-11, generated fewer than one expected goal in that match. Just didn't look particularly threatening. And I know he reverted back to the formation which he expected to start the tournament with, and it was nice to see Moranchuk make his involvement pay. But I think Juba can be shackled, and I think Golovin can be too. I think Simon Kjær will absolutely love the physical battle with Juba. I think Højbjerg and Delaney will be absolutely in and around Moranchuk and Golovin throughout the game. If they can keep that pressure up on the ball, keep that tempo high, get the goal, I think it's all here for Denmark, really. It's all how they can raise the tempo. And if they do raise that tempo to the same standards we saw against Belgium in the first half, I can't see how Russia can match them, to be honest. My one concern with Denmark is just in the final third, the ability to convert and create golden opportunities. There have been quite few and far between so far, but the same goes to Russia, really. So Denmark to win under 3.5 goals was my original play. I am tempted by Denmark -3/4 on the Asian handicap at 195, but I'm going to stick with my original bet because I still think it's going to be it's all in Denmark's hands. And if they do take the lead, they're not going to be going gung ho, are they? It's down to Russia to kind of come out and play. So yeah, Denmark under 3.5.
Like that one, Adrian, in agreement on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was my choice as well. They were brilliant, weren't they, for 45 minutes against Belgium, and yeah, they're just unlucky that the cavalry was brought on and to moments of quality did for them, but they were really competitive against Belgium. They are, in my opinion, the second best team in the group, even though they have no points. And I had the dual forecast ahead of tournament on Belgium and Denmark, so I'm really rooting for them in this game too, because as Mark rightly points out, a win here and Finland to get beaten by Belgium and they'll get second, which from where they are right now would be an absolute result for them. So they don't look full of goals, the Danes. Finishing's been a bit wayward, but Russia are iffy at the back, no doubt about that. Denmark, if they play with the same intensity, they're going to create chances, and I think they'll win. I think they'll probably win this 2-0 is the way I would see this game going. So Denmark and under 3.5 would be my selection. Yeah,
really like that. 2.25 as well. You can back at matchbook.com. Like the look of that one. All right, let's do a quick recap before we get the best bets, gentlemen. A lot of games to get through here, 9 games in total. Hungary and France. You guys like France to win on 3.5 goals, which is currently available at 1.99 at matchbook.com. Portugal, Germany. There's a few angles here, but I think the nominal one was under 2.5 at 1.85 in Munich. Spain, Poland. Spain to win on the 3.5 goals, 2.04. Italy, Wales is a no bet for us. A lot of variables there, so we're not going to touch that one for a while. Switzerland, Turkey, small bet, but one maybe for Akas. Both teams to score. Adrian makes case there at 1.78. Ukraine and Austria, talk about invariables and unknowns, but we still have 2 bets for it, so that's pretty special. Draw on under 2.5 is 2.44, and a safe play I would suggest. Ukraine draw no bet at 1.85. If it is the draw we expect, you get your money back anyway. The Netherlands to win over North Macedonia and over 2.5 goals is available at 1.93. That's a bet there. Belgium to win another 3.5 at 1.83. Since you're getting a theme at this stage, and just to wrap it up, Denmark to win another 3.5 goals. But I'll be honest, lads, if you look back, I'm pretty sure someone can correct me here. There's only one game after going over 3.5. Austria, North Macedonia. Is there another game? Off the top of my head, I can't think that there's been 4 goals in any other game.
Netherlands, so, Ukraine.
Yeah.
Netherlands,
Ukraine.
Yes,
sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies. Forgot that one. Yeah. But again, look, that'll tell you itself. It's becoming a bit of a trend. All right, best bets. Mark O'Hare. I think you touched on it already, but what is it going to be recently?
Yeah, I'm going to be crushed on Monday if this doesn't come in, but Denmark to win on under 3.5 goals.
For a few reasons, you'd be crushed. Yeah. Adrian, what's your best bet of the weekend?
Yeah, I really like that one, but I like France at under 3.5 goals to beat Hungary just that little bit more. So we haven't got too long to wait for that game. And yeah, fingers crossed that one comes in.
Yeah, like that angle as well. All right, gentlemen, we're out of time. We're back on Monday, 9 a.m. to cover the last of the group games. And we're from Thursday onwards next week, we're into the latter stages. Shadow boxing is over. We're into knockout football. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening. Best of luck with your bets. Don't forget, check out insights.matchbook.com for full bet recaps. Until Monday, bye for now.